Hello and welcome to episode 28 of the Motivational Millennial podcast.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Today we are talking with Blake Flyshacker, aka Blake Fly, because two Blakes are better than one. Blake is a speaker, entrepreneur, musician, all around groovy dude, and we had a really interesting conversation that we will be sharing with you shortly. He is a Tedx speaker. And in the spirit of two Blakes are better than one, I have also recently become a TEDx speaker. And my talk, The Untapped Power of Millennials, should be available on our Facebook page, which if you just search Motivational Millennial on Facebook, you will find that. I hope you check it out. I haven't seen it at this point when we're recording it, but it should be up and live now, so we hope you'll go and check it out. And if for some reason it's not up, you'll see an excuse about why it's not here yet, and so you'll feel sympathy. And hopefully inspiration, that good things come to those who wait. So speaking of waiting, we hope that you'll stick around for the after show after our conversation with Blake Fly, when Ivy and I will share our biggest takeaways.
Let's do it!
Hello, welcome to the Motivational Millennial podcast, where we talk with inspiring members of the millennial generation who are living life with a sense of purpose and achieving their dreams. I'm Blake Brandis.
And I'm Ivy LeClaire.
Our Motivational Millennial guest today is Blake Flyshacker, aka Blake Fly. Blake is a huge fan of the Teenaged Mutant Ninja Turtles, is heavily lactose intolerant, and his favorite movie is, admittedly, The Notebook. Blake is a 7-time TEDx speaker and the author of The Campus Life Guide. He is the co-creator of My Life Online, which is a global program that teaches kids to be safe, smart, and kind online. He also likes to dabble in outside-the-box community building as a way to shake up his hometown city of Toronto through unexpected flashmobs and live music inside subway cars. Blake Fly, thanks for being on the podcast with us today.
I'm psyched. I've been looking forward to this, and I got to see both of your lovely faces before we knocked off the video, so I'm keeping that picture as we have this cool chat. Thanks for that.
Well, thank you. We're glad our images are burned in your mind. Hopefully positively forever. And your charming mug is in ours as well. So, Blake, we'd love to hear more about what you're up to at the moment, which we got a little bit of in the intro there, and mainly why you're so passionate about it.
In this moment, I would say I'm up to 4 things that I'm allowing myself to be excited about from a work, career, creative aspect. And those 4 things are being a solo professional speaker guy who goes around to college campuses and high schools and sometimes some companies. The other bucket is something called My Life Online, a program that teaches kids to be safe, smart, and kind online. And then this thing that I sort of just package up as what I'll call thank you, just a few different initiatives and programs all revolving around appreciation of self and others. And then the last thing is what my buddy and I have built and call High Five Run. And it's literally a flash mob of runners through our hometown where we went jogging one day, hated it, and decided to high five people to make it more fun, and it became more fun. So those are the 4 main things I allow myself to get excited by these days and devote energy to, because I used to be addicted to ideas and thinking that the more ideas you had, like the more effective you were. And I realized how devastatingly wrong I was because I was doing nothing that actually garnered results. I was just drawing a bunch of mind maps on papers and scheming some titles to things, and I wasn't really building. So those are the 4 things that I've built right now, and I can dive a little deeper into each or none or all of them based on where you want me to take it.
Well, I have a pre-question before we start going in those different directions.
Yeah.
What was that moment for you that caused you to change from doing the mind maps to actually making these things happen?
I did, one of my ideas was my friend Dave and I, who are now business partners with My Life Online, when we first met and realized we were 2 self-employed dudes working on our own on laptops in coffee shops by ourselves, we decided, hey, let's work together just on our own stuff, kind of like work buddies. And we challenged each other to wake up at 6 a.m. every day because we were both waking up around like 7 or 8 or 9 or 11 every day because we were new at this idea of not having a boss. So the 6 a.m. challenge was like just a fun thing to do. And we phoned each other every morning at 6 to make sure the dude was awake. And the way to know that was we actually went to the washroom, and without actually going to the bathroom, we flushed the toilet as like the signal of like, I'm walking, I'm in a different room. That is the sound of a flushing toilet.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
That like global warming exists. And so we thought that's not really environmentally friendly. Let's change it to like running the tap. So anyway, we'll fast forward. Dave crunched some numbers one day. By us waking up 2 extra hours earlier every weekday, that actually correlates into 500 extra hours a year. And that baffled us. We had no idea it was that much extra time. So we started to go to friends and family of like, hey, what would you do with 500 extra hours? And people thought, well, what do you mean? Like, do I get money for that? It's like, no. No money. Just if we were to give you 500 extra hours, that's either 21 straight days for 24 hours. That's like 6 work weeks, kind of Monday to Friday. Or it could be 2 extra hours a day, like kind of every weekday for a year. What would you do? And we learned amazing things from people that we talked to every day. Like my mom told me cool things I didn't know about her. My best friend, my sister. So then Dave and I, because we were new self-employed dudes who had nothing but time, tons of time. It's like, yo, let's build something. Meanwhile, we had like one thing booked on the calendar that people would pay us money for. So the rest was time. And so we went into coffee shops that summer and put up a bright yellow sign that said, we're writing a book about conversations with people like you. Come by and say hi. And people, like 9 out of 10 would walk by us and say like, this is crazy. And they keep walking. But 1 out of 10 people would stop, stare at us, and want to talk to us. And we would interview people with the question of what would you do with 500 extra hours? And we interviewed complete strangers, and the level of vulnerability that cracked out of these people, it was outstanding. Because with this one man, he said, gentlemen, I would take 400 of my hours and I would fly my plane because I love aviation. The other 100 hours, I would learn everything I possibly could about the universe. Because if someone came to my door and said, we can send you up to the moon in the space shuttle, but the deal is that when you get home, you have nothing to your name. Nothing. He said, I would go because, boys, I want to be an astronaut. So that is what I would do with my 500 extra hours. What's your next question? And we were like, we don't have another question. Like, it really gives us what you just gave us. Everyone's like, oh, I'd go to the gym, or I'd like study more, or all these crap answers that are so surface. But once you get past those surface responses and keep kind of checking in on like, what would you really do? That stuff came out. And this is my long-winded version to answer your question of the moment that I realized I needed to kind of put boxes on my own ideation, what I was allowed to work on and what I wasn't, was when I realized, okay, 500 extra hours is something feasible to like have extra time, build something, work on something, hone something, develop a new skill or hobby. Though if you've got 20 ideas, I mean, the most you could get on like one maybe is 500 extra hours if you add something to your plate and get up an hour or two early every single day. So that allowed me to mathematically basically say, if I add something to my plate and want to give it 500 extra hours, am I willing to wake up 2 hours earlier every single day? And then I realized, well, I'm no longer sleeping if I actually want to do all these things that I'm thinking about doing, and if I want to do them well. Because I can think of doing things all day long, like anybody who's tuned into this show right now. But if I actually want to think of something, commit to it, build it, and it be something relatively impactful, it comes down to time.
So when you made the transition from having lots of ideas to focusing on a few and really building them, how did you have to grow as a human being to make that change?
I needed to schedule blocks of time and achieve results. And what I realized is that on my own, I do that sort of okay, though when I'm working with a buddy, I do it way better. And if I can't work with a buddy, like for example, My Life Online, Dave and I are business partners and we're practically best friends. So we could work all day, every day, and it's like flow. But if I don't have a partner on a project, what I find helpful is having an accountability partner of some sort. And that's what I needed to do when I went from like ideas to let's pick a few things and actually work it and grow it and see if it actually becomes something worth continuing building, or if it was just, oh, that was a silly idea. Let's just not pursue this anymore, because we've seen that it's not really something as fun or effective or impactful as I once thought. Scheduling time blocks, having people you're accountable to, and less was the main shift, because I was a more guy. Even in my life, I mean, I used to be the guy in university where my residence room, if I had an ounce of wall showing, I wasn't done decorating. So I would just jam my room with decorations and with like knickknacks. I feel like mentally I kind of operated in a similar way. I'm like, if it's cool to me, it's going in. Whereas now, and I have to give some credit to my lovely girlfriend Emily on this one, when we moved in together, she's all about like space and energy and less is more. And so now less physical things all over the place. So yes, credit to her for helping me be a far more clear thinker and focus on actions and results instead of ideas and wordplay.
As someone who really loves ideas and wordplay, I totally feel your pain. One of our inside jokes is that I sometimes have a rhyming obsession with Blake's last name, which is Fleischacker, because there's so many things that can just rhyme with that. Wise actor. I don't know. I'll stop at that. We can just go on forever. I know. Yes.
I like dry cracker. That was
dry cracker. That was oh man. Was it spy? Spy capture? I don't. Anyway. So sorry, not the total digression, but you can see as soon as you mention wordplay, that's exactly where my mind goes.
These are so inspired about it.
I know, and but I'm not getting the results I really want, and that's what that's what Blake is saying. So, oh man. So we did have the pleasure of talking with Dave Anderson, your co-founder of My Life Online, on the podcast. And it's really cool to hear your perspective on that partnership, because I think so often there can be this real self-judgment, and especially people who are into personal development, this whole idea that you have to, you control your mind 100%. So you have to be completely responsible for all of your, productivity. And if you can't do it, it's some moral failing. And I think what you just pointed to, Blake, is that some of it's just structural. It's recognizing that getting up 2 hours earlier helps you achieve the things you want to achieve. Working with a business partner or an accountability buddy helps you stay focused and stay on task. And so I think that's really an important thing to highlight, because so often there's this shame associated with me not being able to do the things I say I want to do. So I'm curious if your own self-perception has changed as you've started working more collaboratively over the years.
I would say it has, because one, chapter of my life is I lived with a great friend named Elan. We do Hi-Fi Run together, and we are in a band together. We've done a lot of cool creative projects as a duo or a trio, depending what it is. And when he and I were roommates, we both kind of had that same addiction to ideas. And in our 2-year roommate time, I kind of was coming off that. I was working diligently to reduce what I was getting excited about. And it was that kind of shifted into a self-perception, because I had one of my best friends kind of holding up that mirror of that cliche thing of like, well, if you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else. So getting good at saying no to things and instantly getting excited about whatever the heck that then means you've just said yes to. So the self-perception came from a friend just telling me what was going on, which was nice to hear.
We would love to hear a story of a defining moment in your life when you discovered a sense of purpose or your passion. You know, that's one of your TED Talks is about passion. And so we'd love to hear a story about a defining moment around that.
A defining moment was when Elan convinced me to move in with him. And I'll explain why. At that time in life, he and I were both doing our own work independently. I was giving speeches as my main work. He was doing some, like a startup with some solar energy partners, which was exciting, but short-lived because it was kind of based on some grant money and then it ran out. So, but he said, like, let's move in together. Let's be roommates because we met in university and we lived in the same residence. And so it's like, if we live together, it'll be like university. It'll be awesome. Like, we'll hang out, we'll play guitar, we'll have awesome times, we'll make friends. I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, I've got a good thing going on because at that time I was early in my business. So I lived with my parents, save a few dollars and like eat my mom's food, not pay rent. It was sweet. So then Elan, because he knows that I'm a fan of personal development, he said, okay, forget it. Like, forget moving in together. You're right. There's a lot of money. Forget it. How about this? It's a $12,000 annual coaching program. And it's like an immersion program. And it's you and me. And once a week, we do coaching. We coach each other and we grow. Would you sign up for like $1,000 a month to just get better at life and business? And I was like, you suck. And I was like, okay, I'm in. Because what we decided is, okay, we will not pay rent. We will just call it tuition. So that was another defining moment. Even though it's paying rent, we shifted that mindset. So when you pay rent, it's like, oh, that's a bummer. Got to pay rent. Whereas when you pay tuition, it's still kind of a bummer because it's expensive. But tuition is inherently meaning you'll probably learn something. Like, you have to pay tuition because you're developing in some way, shape, or form. So we would pay our tuition once a month. And to earn that, and to make it worthwhile, we built a program so that each week we would check in on this program and measure our success, our failures, results, whatever you want to call it. So we called our apartment Studio 360 because studio sounds kind of musical. We had instruments all over the place. And 360 just, like a revolution. So Studio 360. And then we needed a slogan. So we called it Laying Down the Tracks. And then we drew a train. And the train had 4 carts. And the 4 carts were the areas that we would focus on for that entire year. Living and breathing Studio 360. So the first one was health. The second one was business. The third category was community. And the fourth one was music. And every Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. for 2 hours, we'd meet up on our couch. And we would go through each category and give ourselves a score out of 4. 4 meaning like we're doing well, and everything else meaning we're not doing as well as a 4. So for a full year, we were measuring health, business, community, and music. And it was so cool because I had never in my life been that attentive and that results oriented to anything ever. Studio 360 was profound because it was a defining moment that made it go from you could just live your life, or you could live it in a way that's different and fun and meaningful to you, and perhaps with a friend that cares about you, that you trust, and you come out the other side having elevated yourself and someone else in the process.
Yeah, it was you really committing to your growth in a whole new way and in an incredibly creative way as well.
It was a great reframing around turning rent into tuition and also setting that intention, as you were saying, Ivy, to say we want to grow in these areas and then going out and doing it. It's really amazing. So since you started pursuing your passion, what is the biggest challenge that you've faced and how have you overcome it?
I was saying this to my girlfriend Emily the other day. I feel like I've become a time diva. Meaning, I think one of my challenges is I'm such a diva with my time. I want to be able to decide every minute for myself. Not as in like, oh, no, I can't hang out with you, or I can't do that. Friends, family, whatever, work. I'm a diva, but I want to be able to be the one making the decision for what I'm doing when it's mine. That doesn't mean like I'm a jerk to Emily and to my family and to people who need me at certain times, but like if there was some amazing opportunity for work or for a job or something, like a contract, I'll get specific. This comes to mind. Dave and I, we were actually invited to work on a TV show. It didn't get very far, but we probably spent 3-4 months developing a TV show idea. And we didn't get far enough into it to actually think of, what a day-to-day would be like. But we realized if that were to pan out, that would have maybe been like 8 months of 5 days a week in the downtown core where we live in Toronto, Canada, for hours each day that were not decided by us. That would have meant I couldn't call my own shots for 3 months. It's that constant pendulum swing of don't get pulled off course by something that might actually take away from your ability to do your own thing in your own way because you've worked hard to get here, and then also not just dust off opportunities just so you can say, like, I call my own shots.
That's an interesting entrepreneurial struggle, I think, and something that people don't necessarily think about because through school and even through college to a certain extent, you're really highly scheduled and dictated where you go, what you do. Obviously, college, I think, is a first gasp of independence for a lot of people. And I do remember some kids in my freshman dorm just sitting there and playing video games for hours and hours and hours and just like eating cereal and never leaving the room. On one hand, I was like, wow, you're paying a lot of money, or your parents are paying a lot of money, or the government is paying a lot of money for you to just sit here and play video games all day. But what I realized in sort of a moment of self-compassion was these were kids who were so overscheduled their entire lives. And so for them, when they finally had that freedom, they were like, okay, I'm just going to lounge and luxuriate. And you alluded to this too with the beginning of the entrepreneurial journey. Like you're saying, you can wake up at 7 or 8 or 11. And I think part of this reminds me of a blog post that Ivy recently wrote about parenting yourself. And it is,
to read that.
It's really good. What's it called? Adulting?
Yeah.
It's on, motivationalmillennial.com. It's fine.
It's no big deal. Go to the website. It'll blow your mind. Like, I must read that.
Exactly.
Remind me at the end of this. I want to find it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I guess the thought there is, how do you think of time now? Because I guess the opposite end of the pendulum could be, to your point, time is so precious and there's this urge to control it all the time. So you start to, almost time starts to rule you instead of you ruling time. It's like, oh gosh, this is going to take 5 minutes, or this is 30 minutes I didn't want to be spending here. How do you balance out taking ownership over your time without letting time dictate your happiness?
What's coming to mind for me as an answer here is a process that I find helpful for me, because I don't feel like I'm some Zen master on like every moment of every day because I can decide what to do when and all that. I have this little paper Duo-Tang that I literally just made on my laptop, printed out a little template, and I put in one of those Duo-Tangs with those little butterfly clips. Very high tech.
I'm sorry.
And what it is.
I'm going to have to plead ignorance. What's a Duo-Tang?
Ooh, maybe that's a Canadian thing. It's like a little just soft binder.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yeah. Well,
Maybe it's like a brand that kind of like Kleenex, like people just call it a Duo-Tang, but maybe it's just some random Canadian brand.
Oh, yeah, we would say Trapper Keeper. That would
What?
be
Trapper Keeper. That's a throwback.
from the early 90s.
That's
Anyway, I'm sorry. So yes, you have a binder, and go ahead.
Yes, thank you. And all it is just a blank template of 6 a.m. to midnight every day of the week, just so I can scribble in what I'm doing every day, all day. I've fallen off it here and there, but over the last 7 years, I've tracked every hour that I'm awake. Like,
holy cow.
by the hour. I think I've missed in 7 years, maybe 4 or 5 months over those 7 years, but every hour. And so I find that if I am doing that every day, I am like Neo from the Matrix. The day is just mine. Like, I am moving bullets. They're not coming at me. I'm just like moving things completely as I want it to happen, because I'm so aware of what I'm doing with my time. So, for example, if I wake up at 6 and at 9 a.m., I'm kind of writing down what I've done for the last 3 hours, then again at noon, then again at 1, then again at 5. That's a pretty good day. Like, I'm very aware of what I'm up to that day in terms of how I'm spending my time. I mean, I'm not saying what I'm doing with my time is always the best thing I should be doing, because I am awesome at procrastinating and I'm not working very hard to stop that. In fact, I'm putting it off, but I'm not working hard to stop it. So it's not like I'm doing ideal things at all times.
So the main purpose is really mindfulness. Ideally, it's as you're going throughout the day, rather than the main purpose being like I'm picturing like spreadsheets or something, like a pie chart that has like 7 years of your time and like the categories that you spent it in. That could be, I mean, looking back over it is something that's helpful to you, but the main purpose for you is that you are being present and aware as your day is going along.
Yeah. And it came from a counselor in university who, she helped me with this, and she suggested it because I wasn't doing my readings. I'd start reading and then I'd get distracted, and eventually I just wasn't doing much reading because I was distracted all the time. So she said, write down every single minute of your day. Like, if you go and get a snack at a vending machine for 4 minutes while at the library, write it down. So it was ruthless. Like, it was minute by minute, but it changed everything for me. So I just wanted to keep that up always, minute by minute. Little extreme. It came from that. So that's what stemmed it, and I keep it up to this day.
So what advice would you like to give additionally to millennials who are on a journey toward fulfillment and success?
I would say that it's important to have an entourage, but not a group of people following you, like actually entourage, where there's like one person in the entourage. Just a community, a circle, like a tribe, if you will, whatever word you resonate with. If you're doing your own thing in your own way and like passion is driving you, and you hang out with a bunch of people who are not passionate and doing things not in their own way, if you find those people who think and operate in a way that's similar to you or that aligns with you, every conversation is one that elevates you. And if I can name something, then I can package it. And then in my mind, it's like sticky. For example, I didn't live with a roommate. Studio 360 was a chapter of my life. That is when I lived with Elan and we focused on those areas. Like, Studio 360 is a stamp on my soul. Similarly, this thing I'm talking about with a community, a tribe, an entourage, my brother and I, we do weekly check-ins just about life and business and how's it going, brother? And instead of just weekly brother check-ins, we call it bro accountability. And bro accountability, again, it's like this stamp. I have bro accountability, which is a check-in with my actual big brother. I have Studio 360 once upon a time, where that was like a hub for my friend and I. 500 extra hours that I talked about in the beginning of our show here. That wasn't waking up early. Like, 500 extra hours was this experience and time that stemmed from waking up early, but was around connecting with people at a core level in a creative way. So to millennials who want to do their own thing and like let passion guide it, find those people and like work hard to find them. But once you find them, don't chance it. Don't hope you're going to get coffee and like hope you're going to run into them on the street. Creatively commit to things that become your anchors together. I worked out with a buddy in high school for like 3 days, university for 3 days. Just that's it, 3 days. But we made it into a workout program. We called it Jacked. And so we made it like Jack and Ed. So I was Jack, he was Ed. And like we wore bright clothes and we gave each other ribbons each day we showed up to be like, hey, congrats on showing up here at Jacked. Like, we make it so sticky. And by we, I mean like the people I like to hang out with. If it's not sticky and emotionally exciting, I fall off it. And I find that other people do too. So find the people and stamp it with something that makes you excited to do it.
That's a really courageous practice, because I think so often there's this fear of, oh, people will think I'm silly or weird if I say, hey, we should do a workout program together. We'll call it Jack. I'll be Jack, you'll be Ed. We'll give each other ribbons. Like, it sounds so awesome when you describe like how well it worked. I think the idea of leading up to that, like, I'm going to pitch this idea or, like collaboratively come up with it with somebody, can be kind of intimidating. So I think it's important to say that naming convention is so powerful. And part of what makes it so powerful is it's not the easiest thing in the world.
I like that perspective.
No doubt. Well, speaking of perspective, we'd love to hear your perspective on a couple things that motivate you. Specifically, on an ideal Blake Fly, sun is in the sky, having an awesome day on a high, what, you're welcome, what do you do in the morning to get yourself set up for that awesome day?
I haven't done this in a while and I want to get back into it, but I was pretty ruthless with a gratitude journal for like 4 years.
I think those are two words that rarely come into the same sentence. Ruthless with a gratitude journal.
It's from my second album, track 7. Ruthless with a gratitude journal.
Killer things.
When you're gratefully ruthless, like you're untouchable.
I love that. I'm sorry, continue. So you were ruthless with this gratitude journal.
Yeah, probably for like 3-4 years, almost like 5 days a week. I would wake up and write down 20 things I was grateful for, and like in different categories. So out of those 20 things, like 4 were about family, 4 were about Emily, 4 were about health, 4 were about my work. It kind of was the spectrum of what matters to me, and then what do I appreciate about each of those things. So like getting to 20 wasn't easy, and it took about 10 minutes every morning. So I know like writing down 3 things you're grateful for every day is a pretty powerful practice. And for a while, for whatever reason, I went for 20. And I don't know if that made it more beneficial or less. When I do that, I find that I feel as though things in the world can hit me way more easily and just bounce off me faster. So if I just like roll out of bed, I'm late, I got to run, I'm like scrambling, something stressful happens, it's stressful. Whereas if I wake up and write 20 things I'm grateful for, I find that if someone cuts me off in traffic, I can be like, you know what? Hey, maybe their wife is pregnant. And like suddenly it's all good. That is the main practice that comes to mind, that I think everything else dominoes from that.
That's great. Yeah, it's like it reorients your mind to be focused on the positive rather than on the negative. And I could see how that would really affect your day, particularly if you're doing it so deliberately.
I feel like you've probably filled up a lot of binders and books.
Yes.
Of notebooks over your various years between...
Duo-Tangs?
Duo-Tang.
Yes, I remembered it.
Man. So basically we could say that you like to do the thing with the Duo-Tang.
Yeah, that's what it made me think of. So...
Duo-Tang clan.
Oh, my God.
That's what it should be. That's a Canadian offshoot of... You know how it is.
Oh my
it's
gosh.
so perfect. It's perfectly Canadian.
Here with the word playing Blakes. Okay. As another thing that gets you motivated, is there a quote or a book, something that has really changed your life?
A quote or a book that changed my life. The first quote that comes to mind is one that I refer to often for my own decision making, and it's one that my dad would just like beat me over the head with when I was going through decision making in like high school. So this is a quote from him that is from some book he read once upon a time, I guess. And the quote is as follows: "You can never make the right decision. You can only make decisions and then make them right."
So the idea being you could sit and debate forever about what's the right decision, or you could make the decision and then follow up with action to make it the right decision.
Yeah.
I like that.
Would you share with our audience where they can connect with you more after the show?
Absolutely. My websites for the speaking and the school programs that I'm up to. It's just blakefly.com or mylifeonlineworkshop.com. And then if you want to just say, hey, what's up, or ask questions on Twitter and Instagram, I'm Blake Fly, and I'm also known as Inconsistent, but I'll be there at some point. And although I'm not quick on the response some of the time, I do love conversations that spin from hangouts like this. So reach out, and I take pride in being as much of an open book as I can be. Like, any questions that you've got about anything that I'm up to, I will tell you every single ounce of information that you want to know. No questions asked.
With an offer like that, who could refuse?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, Blake, thanks so much for being with us today. This has been really great.
Thanks for having me, and I look forward to the next time we collaborate.
Absolutely. Stop, collaborate, and listen. Blake Fly with a brand new edition. All right, man. Here we go. Thanks.
See you later.
The Motivational Millennial podcast is supported by Motivational Millennial Coaching Services. We help you find clarity and confidence so you can take action toward living your dream life. To learn more about one-on-one personalized support from someone who believes you have a path to fulfillment and wants to help you uncover it, visit motivationalmillennial.com/coaching. Welcome to the after show of our conversation with Blake Fleischacker, aka Blake Fry Snatcher, aka I can't resist. That was fun. I related a lot to what he said about the power of naming things. He had a lot of good ones. Bro Accountability, Studio 360, Jacked. And it made me think back to my high school days of creating a rap group called Agents of the Swarm, named after this alien in a computer game that would come out of the building and say, Agent of the Swarm. And of course, being nerdy 16-year-olds, we're like, that's so cool. We should call our rap group that name. To be fair, it was better than our previous rap group name, which was Amethyst, because nothing says hardcore hip-hop like a purple gemstone. But we decided to create this group, and it just started out 3 of us, my friends Hank and Cosmo, and none of us could sing. So we were like, okay, well, Hank can kind of play drums and Cosmo can play guitar and I can kind of play keyboards, but we can't sing. And we're like, but maybe we could rap. And so that was how Agents of the Swarm was born. And it was really fun because it grew into this community where people from all kinds of different backgrounds could participate, whether they were singers or dancers or harmonica players or fiddlers. And it really gave a sense of stability that people could gather around. And so when Blake talks about naming, I really think of creating something that can connect people and bring people together, because that's what he talked about, the stickiness of naming, that it allows something to be present. And for me, on a personal level, I think naming is also about valuing something or some experience in your life enough to give it a name and to commit to it. Because it's one thing to say, oh, I don't want to work out today. But it's another thing to say, yo, I have to go to Jacked. Like, you know, it's like a commitment. You created this thing. And I thought that was inspiring. Just when we think about things in our daily lives, how can we make them more fun, more interesting, more valuable to us? And I think naming is a really easy way that anyone can do that.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I have 10 million URLs that I've purchased because I was like a really good idea. I'll be hanging out with friends or something and then we'll brainstorm like, what should this be called? And I had a really great brainstorming session with a friend of mine, and we're both in different stages of life. Like, she's in retirement age, and so we were talking about, like, wouldn't it be so great to have a blog space that's all about what to do after retirement? And then we called it Life Act 2. And then it's like, oh, let's see if that URL's available. And that's where my brain goes, like, immediately after naming things. And so it was available, I bought it, and I own it. And I own, 20 others or some crazy, ridiculous thing. I'm starting to let go of them and let them expire. It's just really fun to have this crazy abstract idea, or it's like you're summarizing in a fun, awesome way, the energy and the excitement around whatever project or idea or movement or something you're trying to create, it's just a very succinct way of referring to it. And it's not like, that one thing that we did that one time, it's like Life Act 2, or whatever. So yeah, definitely. I'm a big fan of that myself.
And I think there's something nice if you want to keep one of those ideas going about creating some kind of ritual around it. I'm just thinking of the Upbeat, our motivational hip-hop video series that we did, where we said, okay, every week we're going to release the new video. And I'm not sure if we hadn't committed to doing it every week, we would have kept going with it. But there's this idea that, especially starting out, there aren't that many people watching, but gosh darn it, we're going to provide for those 25 people like a great thing.
And oh my gosh, do you remember Forge First?
Yes.
We haven't used Forge First in a long time, but that that was a really great slogan that, we were using there for a little while to just sort of symbolize getting things done and starting and teamwork. And it's a reference to the game StarCraft. We started playing StarCraft together, and that's a great team building tool, by the way. Learn how to work together. And I don't know, I think that it became kind of this slogan or this anthem for us to use and refer back to.
That's right. Forge First. You would build a forge in the game. This is the context. But it's true, ironically, Agents of the Swarm actually comes from the first StarCraft as well.
Yeah, it's a lifelong...
It's really been a lot of my life now that I think about it. Gosh, yeah. 16 years and then 16 years later, Wow, that's truly remarkable. What else did you appreciate from the conversation with Blake Fly?
Well, I actually was thinking about how I would spend an extra 500 hours. I think that's such a powerful concept. And sure, I think when you first hear the question, particularly in our culture, we do want to say, I'd go to the gym, or, I'd do whatever, check off these boxes of things that I should be doing. But when I really thought to myself, okay, what is missing in my life right now? I feel like deliberate investment in my relationship with myself and also my relationship with the universe or spirit or whatever, and how both of those relationships as a foundation help you get through, or at least help me get through, so many ups and downs, and it creates this amazing foundation for recovery from failure, to know that you have this internal strength and compass. And for me, I really believe in the power of self-care, because you are saying that you are worth being taken care of. Mm-hmm. And you believe that so much that, dang it, you're going to take care of yourself. You are actually going to create and do practices that help you take care of yourself. And so for me, I was just thinking that would be a really great way to spend 500 hours. Mm-hmm. And if I had it like a big chunk, it would be a meditation retreat, a silent meditation retreat that just lasted for 500 hours straight. Somebody do math. I don't know how many days that is, but...
You would be silent for 500 hours straight?
Yeah, people do 3-month silent retreats.
Wow.
Where, it's advanced level. It's not like you just start out that way, but and I hear about the amazing experiences that come from that. I think that it's interspersed with some Dharma talks or speakers, and some people do prefer isolation, but there are, retreats where you are only in your mind, and you basically have to kind of experience and face what's there.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I would do. I wish I had 500 hours to go.
But you also really love to talk.
Oh yeah, that's my first silent meditation retreat was only 3 days. And I jumped into that and I was like, wow, I talk when I'm alone. I talk.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. It's when I was alone and I was like, oh, this is actually really lonely. And there's something really powerful about you simultaneously will feel the reality of your aloneness. Mm-hmm. And that you are the only one that's experiencing all of your experiences your whole life. I mean, it seems obvious, but like the immensity of that, but you will also never feel more connected to other humans, to life itself, because you're really beginning to understand the suffering. You develop some real compassion. And that was only like 3 days, so I was just like, what would happen? Like, I hear... Anyway, now we're going down this whole path of it, but...
But you're right. I think a lot of people go out of their way to avoid ever feeling the feeling of truly being alone. And I think it's scary because it's facing that fear. But then you're right. On the other side of it comes understanding, compassion, and probably a deeper appreciation for the connections we do have, or that we create. Yeah, but to your original point about...
we were like so excited about it.
Yeah, but to your original point about the 500 hours, I think something nice that you just highlighted was that it clarifies what is a really important thing in your life that you don't feel like you're currently allocating enough time for. And that is interesting because then it prompts, okay, so maybe I can't do a 500-hour silent retreat, but maybe I could do a weekend silent retreat, and trying to scale it down and say, okay, this has been helpful to illuminate something I really want to do. And I'll give a brief example of that. This morning, I thought to myself, you know what? I haven't played the piano, or in my case, digital keyboard, in a while. And I would just, you know what? I said, let me just take 5 minutes. That's all I'm going to take. And you know what? I played it, and the election has just happened at the time we're recording this, so it was just very cathartic after that entire experience to allow myself the time to just be creative and free and expressive for a minute. And that was really nice. And so when I think, what would I do with 500 hours? Yeah, I'd make more music on a regular basis and not feel the pressure of it has to be for a project.
Yeah, that's absolutely what I was saying. That's
Awesome.
Totally cool.
Well, we appreciate you all listening to our conversation with Blake Fly. Definitely check him out online, and we hope you tune in next week for another episode of the Motivational Millennial Podcast.
Bye!
For show notes and upcoming guests, or to learn more about Coactive Coaching, the blog, and our other awesome offerings, visit motivationalmillennial.com. Keep in touch with us at facebook.com/motivationalmillennial.
We'd love to hear from you. Shoot us an email with your thoughts, comments, and suggestions at podcast@motivationalmillennial.com. And tell us who you might like to hear from, or if you think you or anyone you know would be good for the show.
The Motivational Millennial Podcast is edited by Christy Hostler and Team Podcast.
Our theme music was composed and performed by Blake Brandis. Have a great week, Motivational Millennials!